Hi, Todd Martin here. We are going to continue our mindful movement exercises, helping you connect your mind to your core so you can really begin to understand what your body is doing when you perform any type of movement or exercise. Each of these movements are going to use the core techniques. You can learn more about the core techniques in the Walking Code course by clicking on the information icon on this video. And remember, to support this work, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. In this exercise, we're going to work on the technique for sitting down and standing up. When we perform the movements, what we'll need to do is feel how the body flows from one position to the other. We're going to pause in each one of the different positions. Each position is created by a different core technique. And so we want to feel the flow of the core as we go from one of those movements to the other movement, and then sequentially through the whole exercise. We also want to keep our spine and pelvis aligned the whole time, and we want to keep our gaze relatively forward, aligned with our neck, which will also be aligned with our spine and our pelvis. Another rule of thumb that we'll need to use during these movements is always keeping your knees behind your toes. So we don't want to let our knees move past our toes, particularly in exercises where we're bending or squatting down. First, we're going to go through each step of the exercise, and I'm going to point out the different positions with a little bit of explanation of what's going on in the body. And after we have performed the exercise series, then I'm going to get into some more detail describing the core techniques. For our sitting exercise, the first part of the exercise, we are just going to do the first part of the sit, where we pitch our pelvis backwards, not going into the full chair sit. We're going to begin with our feet facing directly forward, heels together. Relax your arms at your side with good posture. Now we're going to change weight to our right leg, bending the left knee. Step out in a medium width stance, just under the shoulders. Settle the weight and relax. Now we're going to pitch the pelvis backwards, and the arms will naturally come out floating forward of the body. Now we're going to push up and settle the weight. Now pitch back. Push up. Settle. You can notice after the end of the push up, I'm extending my hip and then I relax into a settled position. Now I pitch back. Push up, settle. From the side view, we're going to start with our feet together, change weight, step out in a medium width stance, settle the weight. Pitch the bottom back. Now I'm just going to point out here that my knees are lined up with my ankles. They're not forward of my toes. My spine, even though it is not vertical, is still lined up exactly with my pelvis. So I'm not leaning back this way with my body with the arch in the back exaggerated. I'm also not pitching forward. I have an aligned spine and pelvis, both which are angled slightly forward as the pelvis pushes backwards. My feet are still lined up. Arms are going to hang slightly forward. This will be the natural position. Now I'm going to push up and settle. This is the movement that you do right before finishing the sit down in the chair. If let everything relax completely, you'll notice that the arms will expand outward as a natural part of the motion. As I pitch back, the arms come out. I'm just letting them hang loose. I'm not trying to pull them out. They're just hanging in a perfectly natural position. I push up, settle. After we've settled, we're going to close to the other side and change weight. Now we can step out in the other direction, changing weight to my left leg, step out in a medium width stance, settle the weight. Now, pitch back, push up, settle, push back, push up, settle, pelvis back, push up, settle. And then I'm going to change my weight back to our initial starting position. So now we're going to do the second part of the exercise, going from the pitched back pelvis to sitting down on the chair and then getting back up. We're going to start in a standing position, and I'm going to stand with my right foot towards the right side of the chair because I'm going to change weight, step in a medium width stance, and settle the weight. So now I know the chair is right behind me. I'm going to pitch back, come up. We'll do a couple of these. Pitch back. Pitch back, come up, pitch back, and then now from this position we're going to go to the full sit. And when I go to the full sit, my arms are going to come out naturally in front of the body. Now I'm going to do a sequence to get up out of the chair. First, by reaching forward with my left arm, then reaching forward with both arms is going to get me to this position, and then now I'm going to rise up like we did in the first exercise and settle. Pitch back, sit, reach forward, rise up, settle, pitch back, reach forward, rise up, settle. Now from the side view, change weight, step out, settle the weight, pitch back, rise up, settle, pitch back, rise up, settle, pitch back, drop into the chair with the arms relaxed out in front, reach forward, continue to reach forward with the other arm, bringing you out of the chair, rise up, and settle. Practice the movements very slowly. Pitch back, lower to the chair, reach forward with the left, reach forward with the right, rise up, settle. Should probably be standing a little closer to the chair. Pitch back. Lower into the chair. The spine should have vertical posture while you're sitting in the chair. If you're sitting down typing, this should be your position. Not hunched over, not leaning back. You want to keep this vertical position. And the arms actually settle in a nice natural position using this core technique. Now to stand up. We have a slight lean forward, which I'll explain later, and then a second part of the lean that gets us out of the chair. Now we rise up. We don't try to rise up directly from the chair. We don't have the leverage to do that. There is a core movement that's going to shift you forward, then a core movement that's going to shift you out of the chair, and then you can rise up. So practice this exercise slowly with consciousness of the movement. And in this second part of the video, we're going to explain the actual core techniques that we're using. As a reminder, full explanations for the core techniques are in the Walking Code course. Click on the information icon for more information about the core techniques and the Walking Code course. So I'm going to begin again with my standing position, this time making sure the chair is right behind me. The standing position uses lift with flexion of my right hip. So my upper torso on the right is activated, reaching forward. My lower torso or my lower abs are tucked on the right, and my right hip is flexed. This is the core technique of lift, and it keeps the body in this standing position with my knees extended but not locked out. Now I'm going to change to the core technique of sink by flexing my left hip and turning my upper torso towards my right leg. I'm continuing to have my core on the lower abs activated on the right, which is rooting my right leg to the ground. So now I'm in a single leg balance position on my right leg, my knee flexed, flexed hip on the left, upper and lower torso turning to the right. Now I'm going to step out by turning my upper torso to the left, and that is going to cause my weight to shift to the left, and then I'm going to settle in using set, turning my upper torso to the right and rooting my left leg. So let's go back to this position. This was the position of sink. Flexion of my left hip, upper and lower torso turning to the right. I turn sink with flexion of the left hip to set with flexion of the left hip by turning my upper torso to the right. And what that does is you're not going to see the rotation, but that movement to the left from my right upper torso is going to cause my body to move to the left. This is set with flexion of the left hip. My left hip is flexed, my upper torso is turning to the left, and my root is on the right leg. I'm going to settle my weight using set, again, by changing set with the left hip flexed to set with the right hip flexed. Right hip flexed, upper torso now turning to the right, and I am rooted with my lower abs on the left. My feet should be facing straight forward in this position, and then now I'm ready to pitch back. So I'm in set, flexion of my right hip, torsional rotation here. I'm now going to do sink, going back in the direction to the right by turning my upper and lower torso to the right and flexing my left hip. That won't be able to get me to step over that way. When I do that motion, it's going to cause the pelvis to pitch back. So in this position, I'm flexing my left hip, my upper and lower torso are turning to the right. That is sink with flexion of the left hip. I'm going to push up by extending my left hip and turning my upper and lower torso, which are now both going clockwise. I'm going to rise by extending my left hip while turning the upper and lower torso counterclockwise. You can't see any rotation because everything's going from turning that way to turning this way at the same time. And so while I'm pushing off of my left hip, and all of these things counterbalance each other so you don't actually see any turn happening. I then settle back with my set position. Now I'm going to pitch back using sync. And I'm going to rise up using the core technique of pulse, which is extension of my left hip, upper and lower torso turning to the left. Once I reach this risen position, I'm going to settle the weight back with set. So I'm going from set to sync to pulse to set. Set to sync to pulse to set. Now to get to the seated position, I'm going to go sync with flexion of the left hip. And now I'm going to go sync with flexion of the right hip. So I'm going to switch the core technique from left-sided to right-sided. Right now, my upper and lower torso are turning to the right. As I flex my right hip, I'm going to turn them both to the left. And now I have sync with flexion of my right hip. Upper torso's turning to the left, lower torso's turning to the left. That is also the position of sync, and that gets me into this perfect postured seated position with my arms in a nice relaxed position out front of my body. This is not that different from the syncing that we do in the opening of Tai Chi, a slightly different sequence of core techniques that doesn't get us seated in the chair, but gets us into this nice position. Now from this position, I'm going to begin to shift the body forward using reach. So reach, extension of my right hip here, using torsional rotation on the left. So I've come from a flexed hip on the right with counterclockwise rotation of the upper and lower torso. I'm going to now go to extension of my right hip as I reach forward with my left arm, and that's going to start to shift the weight forward. Now to get out of the chair, I'm going to continue extending my right hip, and I'm going to turn my right upper torso to the left, and that's going to put me out of the chair. So now I am extending this hip, and I'm turning my upper and lower torso to the left. That's what's going on here. Now I'm going to stand up just like we did before. I'm already extending my right hip. I'm just going to turn the upper and lower torso to the right, and that's going to stand me back up. And then I'm going to settle the weight. So I'm going to sync in the opposite direction, reach with extension of the right hip. The next core technique is reach back with extension of the right hip. And then now I'm going to turn the upper and lower torso to the right. If I try to turn the upper and lower torso to the left, nothing's going to happen because that's where they're already turning. When I turn them to the right, it stands me up. And then I settle the weight. Thanks for watching.